As an SDR, one of our dreams is obviously to hit target each month, but when you're a brand new SDR, that might seem really out of reach. So let me tell you a story about Mark. So Mark was an SDR that was 4 months into his role, and his focus was outbound. And what Mark was able to do the month prior was to hit his sales accepted lead target and hit his opportunities created target. The first point we asked Mark was how do you structure your day and week? And he said, number one, that he checks all of his sequences to see if anybody had clicked on any important links or anything within his email. And what he tried to do is find a mobile number for that person to give them a straight follow-up. So them hot leads, he was using things such as Lead IQ, Zoom Info to try and find that number, or even going onto the LinkedIn under the contact info to see if there was a mobile number. Then later in the morning, Mark had a couple of sequences or sales cadences, so series of steps, touch points that are either automated or perhaps semi-automated. But Mark always made sure that he always had a new bunch of contacts being enrolled into these sequences so that he always had a consistent lead of pipeline flowing to him. The bit that I loved Mark doing, and this is one of my favorite ones, was he used to go through his account executives' closed loss nurture pipe, and he would also run reports in HubSpot to see if there were any ops that were dead that he could reignite, so that he always had something fresh to work on through his day or week. The next point was, how did he work with his counterpart or his account executive? So for SDRs, we're all about building that pipe, and with account executives, they're all about closing that pipe. But what Mark would do is that he would meet with his account executive at least once a week and go through the accounts that they wanted to go after together and have a game plan as to how they're going to be approaching those accounts, and is there anything Mark could be doing to help secure that meeting or ensure that meeting sits. He'd also be going through any dormant accounts that his account executive had worked on in the past, and he'd quickly send them a message on Slack and saying, hey dude, do you mind if I go after this? And if he was given the green light, he just went straight for it. He had a good phone conversation with a prospect over a cold call. He was always key in writing quick notes into HubSpot into the notes, so that when the account executive had met with that prospect, they're fully in the know, they know what's going down, and they would literally just say, when you spoke to my colleague Mark, this is what he said. Is that correct? And obviously that would open the conversation and help out the account exec. But what he'd also do is, after that meeting's taking place, Mark would sync with that AE to say, hey, 5 minutes, dude, what happened, what's going on, is it moving forward? So kind of when we get to the end of Mark's story, we kind of said to the team, Mark, what are your best practices for hitting target? And he said, number one is make sure you know that there's always more than one way to be booking a meeting. So Mark was a cold call killer, and that's where he got most of his leads. But he said you need to be sending out emails, you need to be messaging people on LinkedIn. It's a multi-channel approach. The second one is always ensure that you have emails going out each day through your sequences, so that there's always reaching out and there's always somebody to follow up with, and there's always a task and there's somebody to connect with. The other bit which was really smart with Mark, is that he used RevOps. So anytime he wanted to create a report or a custom report of leads or people to go out to, he'd reach out to Cass, who was the head of operations, said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is kind of what I need to see from the report. Is this something you can build? That Mark said is, finally, I always look forward. So when I get into the last week and a half of that month, I'm already thinking about the following month and who I'm going to be going after, which is a proactive mindset and super bueno. That was Mark's story. What's yours and what tips would you add? Happy